I don't know, maybe it's an Irish male thing. It's just not very macho to talk about your feelings, you know? It's probably my biggest challenge to kind of go out there and sing about love. It's just, I wanted to make that first album about that, basically love and relationships. It was kind of a bit of an eye-opener looking back and going, oh my God, all those relationships and how they all kind of kept repeating, you know, in terms of the same kind of people that I'd get attached to, and had to work all that stuff out too. Why am I going back to the same people, and why are they coming back to me, and this kind of the way you kind of attract the wrong people. And so a lot of kind of personal digging into what kept me going back to unhealthy behaviors. And likewise on the other side of people kind of choosing me as a terrible partner to have too. So it was all fairly messy for 10, 15 years. And I guess that's kind of what really, right, I need to either write a book about all these adventures or else write some music. So I guess that's what I chose to do, you know.
Hey everyone, Mark Millar here, and this is the XS Noize Podcast. If you're new, welcome. If you've been around a while, you'll know this is where I get to chat with the artists who shaped our lives and the new voices keeping that spirit alive. Last week was a great one. I was chatting with Martin Blunt from the Charlatans about their brilliant new album, We Are Love. And this week we're heading down to Dublin for something fresh, raw and full of heart. My guest is ALKY, a rising indie rock artist making serious noise with his debut album Rinse and Repeat. He's already sold out Whelan's and the Workman's Club and built a reputation for big emotional anthems that come straight from real life. Rinse and Repeat dives into love, addiction and the cycles we all get stuck in. It's honest, confessional and massive sounding. We talk about his move from Emmy-nominated engineer to full-time artist, the stories behind the songs and how facing his own chaos shaped this record. So yeah, grab a cuppa, turn it up and enjoy this one. ALKY, Rinse and Repeat, right here on the XS Noize Podcast. Hi ALKY, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks, Mark.
Full disclosure, I was scrolling through Instagram a couple of weeks ago on a Friday night and came across your latest single, How Do You? And I was really struck by it. You know, there's something about the honesty in your voice and the songwriting that just stopped me, and I thought, I have to get him on the podcast. So here we are.
Yeah, I was actually delighted to get your message. I was like, oh, cool. So obviously Instagram works and getting artists out there to people who wouldn't have known you before. So yeah, I was thrilled to hear from you.
So let's start at the beginning. You grew up in Dublin on a diet of 90s rock. What was the first spark that made you want to start writing your own songs?
Well, I guess I was writing back in the 90s. So Nirvana, like most 16-year-old kids, that was my first band. And I picked up a guitar pretty soon then. And I started kind of just, playing in bands and then started writing my songs in a band. And I wasn't a singer back then. I was kind of the lead guitar player in a band, and I didn't really have much kind of faith in my own voice. And still don't really. I wouldn't call myself a singer, but I guess I have it. I can make a song work for me in my own style. So yeah, I started writing back in the 90s, and then I guess I fell into production and did a master's in music technology in Limerick in Ireland here, and that's the route I went down, and I started kind of recording and producing and mixing professionally. And then a couple of years ago, I said, I'm going to start doing my own thing again and see if I can make songs work, because I was always writing for people with a different vocal range than me. So obviously inspired by, people like Kurt Cobain and, Tom York and, Bono and, singers way beyond my own range. So I thought I'd try and do my own thing and make those kind of songs, tailor my own voice. And I guess I did a few demos, and I was kind of surprised, okay, maybe I can make this work. And then early 24, I kind of wrote and recorded my first song called Dirty Tricks. That was the first I released. And yeah, it was kind of well received, and I liked I was kind of surprised, I suppose, that I could actually, sing properly and make it work. And then that kind of spurred me on, and I started, right, I'm going to write a song and mix a song every month. I pretty much did that last year, and that's kind of where we are now, where an album of 10 songs is coming out this Friday, actually, October 24th. So it's been a massive whirlwind, you know. I never would have thought I would have, you know, put an album together as a singer. But I guess you kind of get you get a feel for it. It kind of becomes an addiction. It's like, right, I'm going to continue on this, and as a personal challenge. And then you start doing a promo, and then you get people listen to and give you feedback, and then it spurs you on even more. So it's been really, hectic kind of 12 months, but it's been brilliant, you know. And I can't wait now to bring the album out on a live setting and really go for it from there. You know, I've done some gigs recently and it's been great, you know, so I've got a few really nice gigs coming up in the next couple of months and early next year. So I got people working on my team now as well to kind of open doors and whatnot. So it's just all happened really quickly, Mark. It's just pretty great, you know. So that's kind of the backstory in a nutshell, musically anyway.
Yeah, you were an Emmy-nominated audio engineer for TV and film, you know. So yeah. How did that background shape the way you write and hear songs?
Yeah, I guess the Emmy thing was for a cartoon show, and Elvis Costello was the music composer. So I was given Elvis Costello's music to mix in behind the show, and I guess I had a good ear. Always, I guess, like a lot of musicians, for where things should be kind of placed in the mix, and you know, and then obviously bring my own interests in all the bands that I listen to, and making it my own, I suppose. So I guess technically I was trained at the desk and how to produce and record and mix. So that was a definite benefit to do my own stuff, you know, because I have my own studio here in town and my own home setup. So it's great just to go into the studio and know how to mic a guitar, mic a vocal, and plug in some synths and your electric guitar and, you know, all that kind of stuff. That was really kind of a massive kind of benefit to me, I suppose, given my background is kind of audio production. And so, yeah, I mean, even the Emmy was 2018, and back then I was just mixing other people's music and content and stuff, films and whatnot. So I didn't really think of doing my own thing. And I guess when I did, like last year, I knew I had the studio skills and the technical kind of know how to record and mix and stuff. So that was really kind of I guess, yeah, it did help the background that I have, you know, and I produce it all myself too, in terms of, like, you know, the arrangements and that kind of stuff, the strings and horns and stuff. So that was, I guess, just having your own time in your own studio it's a real benefit, you know. So I'm very lucky to have that.
And the name ALKY, it's striking and memorable, especially given the album's themes. You know, where did it come from, and what does it mean to you now?
Yeah, so I guess I get asked that question a lot, particularly in Ireland. You probably kind of guess the name, what it means. ALKY, I suppose, is a nickname for alcoholic, you know. So I guess, yeah, I've had my own issues with drink, I suppose, and I'm sober now 7 years. So a lot of the album and the writing, I guess, comes from, I guess, a lot of, you know, personal dysfunction, I suppose, in many ways. On the career side, everything was going swimmingly, like we were saying there. But on the personal side, it was a totally different story, you know. Bad relationships, bad mistakes, you know, not showing up as the best version of myself, I suppose, drinking way too much, getting myself into all sorts of trouble and stuff. And that kind of started off in school, getting suspended from school and just being, not being a total pain in the arse to teachers, but I was still kind of, a bit kind of wild, I suppose. And that kind of carried through to my 20s and 30s. And then I just had to kick it then, and I don't know, it gets to a certain stage, the hangovers get absolutely kind of debilitating physically, but mentally mainly. That was a real kind of, I just couldn't cope anymore, and so that's the name behind the ALKY name,
The album looks at love, addiction, recovery. Was it hard turning something that raw into songs people could sing along to?
I guess it is kind of putting it out because, I don't know, maybe it's an Irish male thing. It's just not very macho to talk about your feelings, and it's probably my biggest challenge to kind of go out there and sing about love. It's just, I wanted to make that first album about that, basic love and relationships and all the crazy misadventures and just, so I was actually going to call the album Relationship Graveyard, but that's, it didn't have the same kind of ring to it as Rinse and Repeat. So to answer your question, I guess, it was a nice process to be in. It was just me and my own in the studio, so I can kind of get into it. So it was a bit of an eye-opener looking back and going, oh my God, all those relationships and, and how they all kind of kept repeating, in terms of the same kind of people that I'd get attached to, and had to work all that stuff out too. Why am I going back to the same people, and why are they coming back to me? And this kind of the way you kind of attract the wrong people. And so a lot of kind of personal digging into what kept me going back to unhealthy behaviors, and likewise on the other side with people kind of choosing me as a terrible partner to have too. So it was all fairly messy for 10, 15 years. And I guess that's kind of what really, right, I need to either write a book about all these adventures, or else write some music. So I guess that's what I chose to do, and the drinking thing played into all the bad relationships and all the bad choices and all the bad things. And, so it's not obviously uncommon. It's just, particularly in this country, there's a lot of drinking, but I guess for me, it just got to a stage where I just couldn't, I couldn't cope with it anymore. I couldn't live with the shame and all that fear and all that kind of stuff. So, since then it's been way better. Jesus, I can't tell you the difference between waking up at a weekend and feeling good,
Now that time has passed, when you hear these songs, do they feel like closure or reminders of where you were?
Sometimes I feel like reminders, and I guess sometimes you can get quite, you can get a bit kind of emotional about some of the songs, and but I've come to a stage now where I've actually, that chapter is closed now, and it's like looking back as a documentary. It's like, right, okay, time has passed. I'm all good. I'm in a much kind of healthier place now in terms of my personal life, or my romantic life, and my health. So it's a nice way of kind of putting an end to the chapter and writing about it. So no, I don't find myself, it's not a difficult process writing or singing about it. It's just, it's kind of done, but I just wanted to kind of, make a bit of a story about it. And I guess that's the quote unquote, the concept of the first album. So no, I don't intend to write about, those kind of themes again. Unless my personal life, requires it. But, I just wanted to kind of put that first album about romance basically, and how bad I was at it basically.
You've kept up a single every 6 weeks pace sort of since 2024. Has that discipline helped you grow as a writer?
Yeah, I guess because if you don't have that kind of deadline, you kind of just tend to work on songs a bit longer. And, it's been relentless kind of, I wouldn't call it stress, but it's just that kind of each milestone, okay, you just need to go and do it. So it was actually very helpful, I didn't hit that milestone all the time. It might be 2 months between songs, but by and large, between 6 and 8 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. So I found that deadline really, really helpful actually to kind of go, right, I'm going to get 10 songs out. And this is the kind of, I guess sitting down with a plan and a schedule. And, obviously if the songs weren't good enough, I wouldn't have put them out. Or as in I don't mean it, I guess that's up to everyone else to decide if they're good or not. But I guess what I'm trying to say, if I wasn't happy with them, I wouldn't have continued. But I guess I wrote in quite a fast period, and I kind of tended to kind of think they're good enough to put out, so, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
No, they are indeed. It's a fantastic album. Let's talk about some of the songs actually. Dirty Tricks, It was the world's introduction to your sound. Looking back, how do you see that first single, and what did it teach you about who ALKY is?
I thought that song would be a real radio hit. As in, when I say hit, I mean radio friendly, like ready for radio. Looking back now, I was like, God, I don't think it is. It's probably a bit too murky, and there's definite hooks in it, and parts of the song are kind of. So I was thinking that was going to be okay. That's my so-called anthem. It's great live, I guess, but since then, there's more songs that I think I've developed, and like the one you mentioned, How Do You, is probably that's the last song I wrote. So I guess it's more of a ballad. So I guess my writing has changed a bit since 12 months in terms of putting out kind of fast-paced rock tunes. So, but it's still the same kind of style. You can hear, I think in the album, it's the same kind of, it's the same kind of sound basically throughout, that's kind of, so it does sound consistent in that sense, I suppose. But I mean, I've got my favorites on the album. I get Dirty Tricks, I suppose, will be my own personal one. But I guess, I'd be interested to hear other people's opinions, because all my friends have their own different, they're like, I wouldn't think that was your strongest one, Barry. It's like, so I don't know. It's just, everyone has different tastes, don't they?
Yeah, well, How Do You, it was, as we said at the start, it was my entry point to your music and the album. It's got that mix of vulnerability and defiance. What inspired it, and where does it fit in the rinse and repeat story?
So how do you, I suppose, it's about a few different things, about a few different relationships. The verses are kind of about how I actually met my current partner, and through her own struggles and relationships and my own, and then somehow we kind of, without sounding corny, found each other. And then the chorus is based on a different relationship where it's like, how do you basically, it's like, how do you see every good thing as a bad thing, make sunshine want to rain. I guess that relates to like me giving up. Oh, I don't care, whatever. How do you make so it's me kind of just being, dropping my shoulders a bit going, I don't care. Just give me the shit. I don't give a fuck anymore. And because that particular relationship was very challenging and, I couldn't win in any argument. Nothing I could say would ever, sink in. And I was always, made to feel I need to apologize even for things I didn't need to apologize for. So, so that was, how do you, is like, oh my God, how do you see the bad in every good thing that we're doing, that we're trying and that I'm doing. And so I guess that's kind of the main part of that particular chorus really. So yeah, like it's all based on pretty funky relationships over the years, So yeah.
Perfect. It feels cinematic. Those strings and piano hooks really sort of elevate it. How did that come together in the studio?
Perfect was actually an old song I'd written when I was 19. It was called Don't Let Me Down, but it kind of seemed a bit juvenile, the lyrics. So I kind of reshaped the lyrics and put it into today's context and dropped the pitch in terms of my singing on it. In terms of studio arrangements, I guess it's just, I have a really cool kind of, orchestral kind of package that I use. I just kind of put the basic, structure down in terms of guitars, bass, and I have a great drummer friend, Doug Sheridan, who did the drums on it. And then I started kind of making it a bit more cinematic and maybe a bit more darker and putting in kind of low strings and kind of staccato stuff just to kind of, give it a bit more of an emotive feel, I suppose. And so, yeah, I kind of, that's a song that I personally like in places, then I hate in other places, So I never really felt comfortable with that one, even though people say it's one of their favorites. But I don't know, it's weird. I think probably every songwriter has their own favorites, and that's one that I was always worried about.
Why was that? Why do you not feel comfortable with that song?
Yeah, well, if you know the song, I personally for me the second verse feels a bit drawn out. It starts off nice. First verse is kind of short and snappy, then bang into the chorus. And the second verse is actually the same length as the first verse, but it's where all that kind of, like you said yourself, the strings and the cinematic stuff. So when I just feel, I don't know, I'm very critical about my own stuff. So I kind of find myself, I shouldn't really say this for people who haven't heard the song yet, but I just feel myself kind of getting taken out of the song in that particular time. Then it kicks back on again, and then I enjoy the rest of the song. But I don't know, maybe that's a personal thing. I don't know.
Well, the production, across rinse and repeat, it feels powerful yet personal. Who else was involved in shaping the sound? Was there any collaborators or musicians who really brought the vision to life?
No, to be honest, it was just myself in the studio. Like I said, I've got a drummer friend of mine who played the band, and then his nephew now is playing the band, Doug Sheridan and Chris Sheridan. So they jumped on the drums, but for the rest, it was just like, I guess it's me and my own really. So it was great in a way, but when you're engineering it and then you're performing it and then you're editing it and then you're mixing it, it's very tiring, but I was really buzzed by the whole process anyway. I really enjoyed it. So, and I'll probably do the same again on the next album, which I've just started kind of writing as well. So there's no letdown. You got to keep going as an artist to kind of, so people won't forget about you. But I've got a lot of stuff that I want to write anyway, and there's loads of sketches there that I'm going to be working on soon. So yeah, it's kind of one of those kind of DIY projects, I suppose.
Well, if you're doing it all yourself, then who do you play the songs to for feedback?
Yeah, so I play to like my musician friends, and some of them are in the band or have been in the band. So they're the kind of ones. And then I've got real muso friends too, and they give really good feedback. And then, I don't know if you hear this from other artists too, like the people you expect to give feedback just don't do it. Your friends and family don't give a fuck really. And, we're in, like most people, they're on a WhatsApp group with their families. It's like, hey, I got this new song, and, crickets, and they continue talking about what they're talking about before you send it. So it's like, all right, okay, you kind of learn after about, 4 or 5 songs that they don't really care and they don't take you serious. But you have to find, like you say, people that do kind of will give the song a full listen and give their feedback. So they've been really helpful, actually, So that's kind of my sounding board. It's like, okay, many times I've kind of mixed a song and I've listened to it about 1 million times, and I go, okay, I think I've got this one. And then you send it to a group of friends and they go, nah, it's not doing it for me, man. You need to just don't follow, that chorus isn't good enough, or that lyric is a bit, oh, yeah, sorry, man, not for me. It's like, fuck. And then you listen back and it's like, my God, they're right. So you do get caught up in the emotion of it and go, yeah, I think this is good. And then you realize, nah, it's not. When the emotion goes after a few days, I found that over the album, like, every song, it's like you're buzzed up after about, a couple of weeks doing a track. And then the whole weekend you're listening to it, and you really feel great. And then by Tuesday or Wednesday, the next week, you're going, oh, I've got a lot of work to do in this one. This isn't done yet, So that's what I've learned as well, that you can't get carried away, because you always think things are much better than they are. And you need to kind of bit of time to kind of, let your emotions cool down a bit. And other times, you think a song is just fucking terrible. And then you get people's feedback and you let that negative emotion go down too. And then you can sit back and go, actually, you know what? It is good. Actually, it's good enough, So it kind of works both ways that way,
Which song hits closest to the bone for you? The one that still catches you emotionally when you perform it?
I guess How Do You, because like I said, it's about my current partner, and it kind of goes back and talks about some others as well. So, and it's the newest one too, so I guess it's kind of still fresh. So I do like playing that one because it does strike a nerve, I suppose. My favorite track is probably All Because of Love. That's the opening track in the album. It kind of has that big bright guitar intro thing, and it has a kind of a catchy chorus. So it's kind of like you can probably hear my U2 influences there with the guitars, and and then I guess my my limited vocal style kind of sounds a bit like, I don't know. I get a lot of comparisons to Matt Berninger from the National. So I guess that's my favorite song that I've written, I suppose. And again, other people's like, really, that one? Okay, I wouldn't have thought that was, it's like, oh, okay, it's interesting. So I don't know why. I just kind of feels the most joyous one, even though it's full of fucking, heartache and pain. But I guess I like to write catchy music and upbeat in my own kind of genre. But I guess the words that I've written are kind of, I guess they're quite sad, really.
Yeah, and you've had those comparisons, and I'll be honest, when I heard How Do You, I heard you too, and I heard Matt Berninger as well. But is there an influence that truly defines your sound that people maybe don't notice or aren't aware of?
Well, I guess funnily enough, like, the National are a huge band, but not a lot of people, in the mainstream would know about them. So they're obviously a big influence. I love Leonard Cohen. Like, I just love his writing, and I love I'm actually reading his autobiography at the moment, I'm Your Man. And so many weird things in that book that I'm kind of thinking, when he started out, like he said, he didn't really believe in his own singing either. I was like, I can relate to that. And he said that he didn't think he was much of a guitar player either. And I was like, okay, I can relate to that as well. So, but aside from that, his writing is brilliant. His music is amazing. And obviously his lyrics, he was a genuine poet, So I guess not a lot of people in mainstream would know about Leonard Cohen either. And my sound isn't Leonard Cohen, but I guess I'm inspired by kind of that kind of earthiness, and that honesty, I suppose. So he just kind of mastered all that, really. And then there's a handful of other bands, like, I guess I love Arcade Fire, back in their heyday, they were known better, Those first 3 albums were brilliant, or first 2 anyway. And geez, they've written some great songs in the meantime as well. So I still follow them. I still love Arcade Fire. So I guess that kind of stuff is kind of, what I guess, go back to when I'm writing. It's like you kind of hear those kind of sounds, and then you start making your own spin on things,
You've had a huge year, headline shows at Whelan's, the Workman's Club, RTA support, thousands of streams. So, as an independent artist building momentum organically, what's been the most rewarding moment of connection so far?
Oh, it has to be the gigs, definitely, you know. Our first gig, we played the Battle of Bands in my town in Malahide, where I'm originally from. Coincidentally, that's where it was. And geez, we were terrible, you know. But our first headline gig was in Whelan's, in the upstairs venue there, and we filled it out, which is I was, you know, really pleasantly surprised. I thought we'd have 10 people there. I guess being backstage and then seeing the venue fill up, and then walking down and being on stage, and kind of people knowing some of your songs, that was the real kind of payoff, I suppose. The Instagram thing, I guess it kind of appeals to every human being, and they're kind of that red notifications like, oh, you know, someone likes my stuff or someone's followed me. That does feel good, I suppose. Particularly at the start, you're trying to build momentum and get fans to know about you. But definitely the gigs are the ones that kind of, right, this is what it's all about, you know. And I love actually rehearsing with the band and being in a rehearsal space and then singing the songs and hearing the rest of the band doing their thing. It's like, oh, this sounds really good. It's exactly what, you know, I was hoping for. And, you know, we had a great session last week. We had a trumpet player in and with strings and female backing singers. It's like, oh, I hope this kind of, you know, comes across well on the night. So I guess that's the payoff, performing them, whether it's in the rehearsal room or to other people. And we did a few stinky shows, like most bands. I'm sure we'll do more as well. Literally, you're playing in front of the barman, some staff, and maybe 5 friends. And weirdly enough, we did one gig a couple of months ago, and it was literally that. It was a bank holiday, and I kind of timed it wrong. I thought there'd be loads of people out in bank holidays, but bank holidays, everyone's away doing things. And we literally played to about 10 people. And it was still, to this day, probably one of the best gigs, you know, because it just felt intimate and it felt freeing. And it just felt like, fuck it, let's just go for this and have fun. What else are we going to do here? You know, we've booked the venue. We've rehearsed for weeks for this. And we played it. And it was probably one of the most enjoyable gigs I've done. And, you know, so it's weird how that you can connect to 10 people and you also connect to 80 people or whatever the case may be. So the payoff is definitely playing live to, you know, 5 or 500 people, I suppose, you know.
But it's all part of it, you know. There isn't a band or an artist that doesn't have those stories of playing the, you know, one man and his dog in a bar. You know, it's happening to everyone. You know, it's all part of the process, isn't it?
It's kind of rite of passage. You're not going to suddenly get everyone interested in getting venues straight away. Just, you know, it's like building a business. You just, you know, it takes a couple of years, you know, and unfortunately you kind of see, that's how I look at things, not from the money side of things, because there is no fucking money in it, but not now anyway, but just to get it, to build awareness and exposure, just have to start small and keep building and hope people will kind of come along with you on the journey, I suppose. And it just takes time, you know, so that's where we're at now. And we've got some great gigs now lined up. Yeah, we're playing the Olympia actually on Paddy's Day next year. Oh. So I can't really say much about it because they haven't actually promoted themselves, but it's an annual thing that they put on for a certain charity, and there's a headline act and I think a handful of other kind of, you know, local bands. So that's going to be really cool to play the Olympia. I've seen so many great bands there. Radiohead played there, I think 2003. Went to see them in their Hail to the Thief tour. They did a private gig there, and to see Radiohead there in their prime, you know, in such a small, intimate venue is amazing. So to be kind of playing at the Olympia, you know, can't wait for that, you know.
When this goes out, ALKY, Rinse and Repeat will be out in the world, you know. What do you hope people take away from the album when they hear it from start to finish?
I guess I just hope they like the tunes, you know. And obviously if they dig deeper into lyrics, that'd be cool. I just hope they enjoy the music. I hope they don't, you know, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I just hope that they kind of like, you know, feel something from the songs and maybe they can relate to some of the topics. But overall, I hope they kind of, you know, bop along to it really, and I can hear the bands that I've been influenced by, and that might kind of, I always think it's kind of interesting to hear, like obviously I'm a fan of music and I've fucking so many bands that I follow. When I hear their own backstory, I hear the kind of stuff that influenced them, it kind of draws you closer to that band because it's like, oh, well, I like them too. So you're kind of in my group kind of thing. You're in my tribe. It's like the Fontaines, it's like, you can hear so much of the stuff that I listen to as well, like The Cure, The Smiths, a bit of U2 there as well, and a bit of Joy Division. It's like, so I guess, you're drawn to the bands that are influenced by the bands that you also liked as well. So you kind of feel like you're in some kind of, not to sound like a corny here, but it's kind of, you're in some kind of family, you know what I mean? It's okay, this is where we belong in that kind of indie rock kind of phase. It's like, okay, so hopefully that people listen to my album, they go, okay, he sounds like he might like the bands that I like. Therefore, he's in our we're in this kind of thing together, So I guess first and foremost, it's like, are the tunes sounding good? Are you bopping your head? I don't mean that in a pop way, but I mean, did I catch you? Did I draw you in? Are you less likely to switch off after 10 seconds? So hopefully the songs will kind of keep people listening and go, actually, this is for me. Or, in most cases, it probably won't be, because that's the nature of, I guess, unless you have, it's just very hard to, when you cast the net so wide, you're only going to get a small amount of people that are into that kind of music, So fingers crossed. I'm starting to write more now as well. So I'm just, I'm in a kind of, I guess, a period where I'm kind of, got the bit between my teeth. So I just want to keep writing and putting stuff out. So I'm looking forward to a new song that I'm really excited about. I'm going to start putting that together in December with a release maybe late January, and then just hit the road again and kind of release as much as I can, Like I said, if the songs aren't good, I'm not going to put out anything, but hopefully I can continue on next year, 26, to kind of release, songs that I think are, are decent enough to put out there, So, but I'm very excited about this one particular song. And then I've got a few sketches of other songs that are kind of in the same vein as How Do You, kind of slower ballads. So I'm thinking the next album will probably be a more slower kind of ballady type in the rock kind of, style. But obviously the current album is it's a bit of a mix. I think there's 3 slower songs in it, kind of 3 slower ballady types, and the rest are kind of upbeat, kind of catchy, kind of, rock tracks. So I don't think I could do a second album exactly the same. You want to change things up a bit and do what I'm just naturally kind of gravitating towards the acousticy stuff. So let's see. I've often put down tracks and then all of a sudden I'm just going at it with all sorts of arrangements and stuff. And then all of a sudden they become way, way bigger than I thought, so in terms of the sound of it. So, but I think that's what I'm going to do for the next album. Just kind of, strip things down because the rinse and repeat is there's a lot of stuff going on there, in the production. I've kind of, put a lot of string arrangements into it and brass and obviously all the guitars as well. So yeah, fingers crossed I can do it.
Music is often the soundtrack to our lives. What song or album brings back the best memories for you personally when you listen to it?
Oh, it's got to be one of the Radiohead albums, I suppose. Back in the 90s, I suppose. OK Computer. I think that was just that particular summer when it came out. I just became completely, sucked in by them. I just loved everything about Radiohead, and I obviously did before then. Since Pablo Honey, the first album. But that one, I guess, I was coming of age as a teenager, and I was kind of out doing what teenagers do for the first time, drinking with your mates in the park, and listen to just becoming completely hooked by that. And then obviously I was playing the band at the time, and so that album always brings me back. That and Octane Baby, I suppose, by U2. Octane Baby is probably, it's those 2 albums that are probably my favorite of all time. U2, Octane Baby. So yeah, it's the 90s. The albums, the iconic albums of the 90s, the Oasis albums too, Morning Glory. Then obviously Melancholy, Infinite Sadness, Smashing Pumpkins. That's just, and of course, like I said earlier on in our chat, Nevermind, Nirvana's second album. That was like, that put me on my road to like, okay, I'm now hooked to music. And so all those albums kind of bring you right back, don't they? It's just like, wow.
What song always lifts you out of a bad mood?
It's always the sad ones, actually. Jesus. What's that song by Elbow? Drinking in the morning sun.
One day like this.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. So that reminds me of summertime. Yeah, about 10 years ago, I was just blasting that track. So that's a go-to song just to kind of get you going before you're going out for a skinful of drinks or Heineken Zeros nowadays. I used to love No Cars Go by Arcade Fire. That's a real kind of, it gets you going, it's brilliant. So there's loads more. Also, loads of U2 songs. Jeez, like, even better than The Real Thing. That's a great one to kind of get you going. But honestly, I always think the sad songs are the best, I always kind of play sad music without feeling sad. I don't have to feel sad to listen to it. I just love the sound of emotion and the way it kind of, gets you, so yeah.
What would be the one line from Rinse and Repeat that sums up where you are right now?
Where I'm at right now is in a different place to when I was writing it, I suppose, looking back at all the misadventures. You know what? All Because of Love, that simple lyric would sum up kind of the album, because all because of love, all because of my bad relationships is kind of what brought me to writing the album. And the full lyric is all because of love, I am aground. So I was stuck in a rut, stuck in a bad mental place, stuck in, struggling with alcohol and love and sex and all those sort of things kind of coming hand in hand. And I think that simple lyric, all because of love, I am aground, is like, okay, that's kind of the whole, I guess now that I think about it, that sums up the whole process really, I suppose, in a very simplistic way. So yeah, like I said earlier on, the album is about love and attachments and weird attachments and why you're going back to the same people and what is about their own attachment style that somehow brings you to them and them to you and all that toxicity and, the chaos of something that you see in them from some kind of, deeper place that you're unaware of. It's like, okay, I'm actually attracted to that person because that was missing in my life, or I'm familiar with that kind of routine. I can see certain parental kind of, I could relate to that, and it's all about familiarity, and that often isn't a good thing. So you have to kind of detach from all that and kind of go, okay, why do I keep going back to these particular relationships? So I guess to answer your question, all because of love is kind of like, right, it's all because of that stuff that has me in this place, and I need to kind of go and work out why I'm continuously attracting the same kind of people, and likewise them being attracted to me and me being the worst version of myself, and then somehow they find that attractive in me. So it's weird, it's all kind of, deep fucking corny cliche shit, So
well, when you finished the album, you listened back to it. Was it therapeutic for you?
Yeah, I mean, like some of the songs, they do kind of, I guess, lyrically, there's parts in every song that it's like, oh God. And then now coming through all that and, feeling better about everything in my personal life, now I'm just kind of sit back and go, no matter whatever happens, no matter if just one person likes this and everyone else hates it, then at least I can say, you know what, I've put an album out and I've done it. And now, so it's kind of a sense of achievement that I actually buried my head 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year, and just basically did nothing else but writing and recording. And that's kind of like, okay, I put in so much work into it. So, in a very self-indulgent way, I suppose it's kind of, I guess that's kind of what, if all else fails, it's like, okay, at least I did it and I tried it, so you kind of don't want to be like a lot of other musicians and artists out there. And it's like, I'm doing this, man, because of, my heartache and my pain. I'm an art. That shit for me kind of makes me cringe. So that's what I don't want to be like. I don't want to come across like, over egging the emotion of it. I want to put my head down, write the songs, make them real to me and put them out. And if they connect, that's great. But I don't want to go out and be a spoofer, there's so many fucking bullshitters out there. And they over egg their artistry, and they're, by and large, a lot of them are shit when they're not real, they're bullshitters, So I was just kind of conscious of like, look, just do this quietly and then put it out, and if people like it, that's great. And if they don't, well, at least I've done it, I think in the right way, and not trying to I just don't like self-indulgence. I hate people I hate egos. There's so many fucking egos nowadays, and it's cringe. You see it everywhere, and people who overextend themselves and try and make it out that they're better than they are, and put other people down, and I just don't like that. It's just, okay, just do this in your own way, and hopefully that comes across. So it's not like, some egomaniac idiot artist kind of putting a song out again. Everyone has an album, anyone can put out an album. So even come on this call thinking, so tell me about your album. It's like, oh fuck, there's so many people doing this, and you don't want to be just come like another clown. It's like, hey, tell me about your album. What's it mean? And so you don't want to become that kind of guy who kind of believes in his own hype. And so I'm very conscious of that, and not kind of falling into the trap of thinking you're famous and you're important when you're just not, So it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of gone off on a tangent. I can't remember your original question. You've got good patience, Mark. You're a good interviewer. You listen too much, jump across and tell me to shut up.
Let's wrap up. The album is absolutely fantastic. Really, really love it. Where can people get it?
Yeah, so it's on all the usual places: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, Deezer. I think there's probably a YouTube stream as well of, the album, the first 10 songs. So mainly Spotify really is kind of the place to be, really, isn't it? Like as an artist, you're just, that's where people tend to engage with you more. So yeah, Spotify, it's out. Check it out and see. Give the first couple of tracks a listen. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's cool as well. So